Hey folks, this is Michael, teacher turned trucker, and I just finished up week 3 with my OTR trainer. Um, it was a pretty good week. It was probably my best, certainly my favorite. It's still a little difficult leaving on Sundays, meeting up with the trainer, saying goodbye to the family, but it's getting a little easier, especially in just a shout out for this Duo. Allows me to do video calls, so I get to see my kids and my wife. So that makes it a lot easier. Um, the backing is coming along. It was a struggle up through until Thursday. We spent some time. I'm starting to visualize the 45 better. Not doing the setup the way we do at orientation. My driver, week 1, day 1, told me that format and structure works great in orientation, but you're really not going to have the opportunity or the means to do so in real life because of the time and everything that's involved. People trying to get around in truck, parking lot, people trying to steal your spot, whatever. For that, I have to defer to him because I haven't lived that life fully yet. Um, but I'm definitely getting better with getting the tractor to go where I wanted to. Thursday was a big turnaround for me. So the tarping and securement is coming along good. Uh, the one thing I wanted to talk about that happened Thursday evening, and I'm struggling a little bit with my temper. I mean, I get a little angry when I start thinking about it. We did a pickup at Cape Canaveral in Florida, and the order itself in the TMC app said specifically, weigh the load because this place is known to overload you. And I specifically said this to my trainer. Um, and instead, he decided to defer to the instruments in his truck, the gauges, and determine that we were not overweight. Um, Made it all the way through Florida, made it up I-16 to the way station around mile marker 143 or no, I guess it'd been 152 or something like that. Something like that. Anyway, it's in that general area. You guys can look it up if you're really interested. And we get to the way, and they pull us in, and we're sitting there, and I knew after about 20 seconds we had a problem because normally they're pretty quick to flip the light green. And sure enough, about a minute, 2 minutes later, the DOT officer comes out, has his little measure that he's using to measure the length of the truck and starts taking weight and distances and all that stuff. We ended up being 4,300 pounds plus a little bit over gross. So 84,300 and some pounds. And the reason I'm kind of angry is because I specifically wanted to weigh the truck per the directions, and the response I received was no. Why? We don't need to. Um, so I was very much dismissed. And as the person driving, the ticket was written to me. And for that, it was about 220 pounds. Now, we'll go ahead and say this before I get much further. The trainer is going to pay half the ticket. And this is where I get a little angry. I'm going to try contacting my training coordinator this week and see what can be done, if anything, because I did what I knew to do. I voiced what I knew, and he chose to not weigh the truck like we were supposed to. And as a trainee, where do you go? What do you do? Do you put your foot down and say, I'm not driving it until we weigh it? Hindsight, any occasions in the future, that's what I'll do. But I don't think that's going to be an issue moving forward. TMC's part, they said in orientation, they don't pay for overweight tickets. Great policy on the surface. Do I think it should apply to those in the training who are doing the OTR with a trainer? No, personally, I think either the trainer or TMC should be paying that bill. Is it something I'm going to quit over? I don't see that happening right now. But my opinion of TMC has dropped a notch or two. Because to me, a high quality business, when you have a trainee that is basically doing what he or she is told to do by the trainer, um, and they get a ticket like that for doing what they're told, um, it just doesn't sit very well. So, if something further develops from this through my conversation, if I have an opportunity this week, I'll let you guys know in the next video. But that's kind of where I'm at right now. Definitely getting more familiar with the tarping, pinning the tarps, strapping, securement itself, watching, observing a lot, doing a lot. I will go ahead and put this out there just an aside. For those of you guys like myself who are not real athletic, one of the things you want to look at is a telescoping ladder. Probably look for one at least 14, 15 feet. That way you have a little bit of clearance at the top. If you decide to perch it up on your catwalk, you may be able to get away with a shorter one. But there are some loads you're going to have to be able to get up on top of. And not everywhere has a ladder, not everywhere has a harness, not everywhere has a platform or scaffolding and whatnot that allows you to get to the top of the load. The one load that I've seen that I did not tarp because it was the very first load on the truck when I met up was an insulation load that goes the full 13.6. Okay, and that particular one was tarped. My understanding is because they didn't want the plastic torn up. I could be remembering wrong. A lot of things have come and gone in the last few weeks, so just bear with me with that. If you remember or find out something different, by all means say it in the comments. This isn't one of those areas where I need to be right or wrong. I'd rather be accurate. So that one there, if I were to pick up a load tomorrow and be by myself, I would theoretically have no way of tarping it. And those, when the customer says they want them tarped, you have to tarp them. So I have my trainer recommended a ladder that's at Home Depot. It's about $130. Telescoping. I think it's like a 16-foot ladder by Werner. So I'm looking to get one of those as soon as I get in the truck. I am going to wait until I pass my test, which should be not this week, but if I understand correctly, it'll be the following Monday. Initially, and this is another thing to point out, initially when we started orientation, we were told it's 5 weeks. Somewhere in the mix, TMC has made the decision to try start shifting all of us that are auto shifters down to 4 weeks, saying that we don't need that extra week because we're not having to learn to do the shifting and all that. My opinion is if you're going to invest in a potential employee and they're making gains, some of those are going to need that 5th week because not all of it is about the driving. Just remember that when you're transitioning to flatbed, especially if you're doing it from another career, you're having to learn how to drive the truck forward, how to drive it backwards. You're having to learn how to do the trimble, how to do the paperwork, how to do the securement, where everything's at. And that's part of trucking. I'm not complaining at all, but that is a lot for people to learn. There are going to be elements in there that some will pick up much more quickly than others, whereas there'll be those areas that are, like for me, for example, the backing, which has been much slower coming. The driving has settled down pretty well within the first couple days. The nerves were pretty much gone until I get in there on each Monday, and then I have a couple minutes of it. But also, we haven't done a lot with pre-planning for the trip, where we're going, and all that stuff for the stops. So that'll be one of my focal points this week because I'm so far behind on the angle backs. They said to try and get 15 to 20 this week. That's my goal, which brings up my last point for today. In your trainer's truck, don't expect the trainer to always have your best interest at heart or understand what it is you need. I'm not ascribing blame or anything. They don't know unless you tell them. Even if you try saying, well, I'm not doing very good at this, that's not the same as saying, I need more time to practice this. So that's one of the things I learned as a teacher. Sometimes people need to hear it said in a specific way for it to click. So for me, what that looks like this week is I categorically have to say Monday. Okay, when are we planning on pulling over somewhere for me to practice parking? Tuesday, when are we planning and where for me to practice parking? Wednesday, you get the idea. Every day this week, I need to be practicing parking. I need to get it so that I'm not a master of it, but that I can get it in. I can get the setup down right, because once I get the setup, I'm relatively comfortable once I get the setup. This is where my poor geometry skills, figuring out where that 45 is, because we're not using orientations method of you pull up to where you're going to park, do a hard right to 3 o'clock, then you do a hard left to 12 o'clock, then you back up 10, 12 feet, and then you drop your dump valve, do a hard right, pushing your trailer into the box. We don't do it that way. Instead, what we're doing is basically pulling my shoulder up basically where I would, where my rear drive is lined up with the first line of the box I want to go into. Then I'm angling out to that 45. So I'm skipping the 3 o'clock to 12 o'clock, and I have to know what a 45 looks like. If you're good with geometry, I'm going to tell you right up, you're probably not going to struggle with that part. But me, not so much. So it's taken more work. But I'm getting better at, once I have that set up, with getting the trailer to go where I want it. Because that is a skill that's learned. It's not something most people are born with. But Thursday, after the practicing, my confidence, my belief that I can do this is pretty high. It was discouraging Thursday night when I got the ticket. Friday morning when effectively safety says, now you can either have him pay it or you guys can split it or whatever. I'm not sure if there was another option that I was not made privy to. When my trainer got off the phone, he said, what we're going to do is this. I'm going to pay half, you're going to pay half. That's what he told me. There wasn't really a discussion other than for him to say, wait for me to respond. So at that point, I essentially had the decision, am I going to stay with TMC, at which point I'm going to have to pay my part of the ticket, or am I going to leave? My share comes out to be like $110, so it rubs me the wrong way. It gives me a bad taste about TMC a bit, but there's life beyond the ticket. And so we had to send a message saying that we wanted it taken out of one check, multiple checks, or whatever. And I know in the back of my mind, after I sent the ticket, the purpose of that message, or after we sent the message, the purpose of the message is probably more to have a paper trail to say that we requested it to be deducted. I could be wrong on that. Again, if I get any further information, I'll be more than happy to share it. I would rather this thing turn out in a positive light, because there's a lot of positives about TMC. I can go into those. You can find other videos on those. But I'm about sharing my experiences. I'm about sharing my take on things. And I'm just about letting you guys know where I'm at. So this next week, instead of doing 5 weeks, I'm supposed to do 4. I have not been told that that's changing. So this should be my last week with the trainer. And then I'm going to test out the following Monday, again, if things go as I've been told. And we'll go from there. If I hear anything more or whatnot, I'll let you guys know in the upcoming videos. Other than that, this is Michael, teacher turned trucker, and you guys have a great day.